Hello everyone, I'm the French Monk and welcome back to another video. Now you may have noticed I haven't posted a video in regards to Bannerlord or the Sword Musket mod for a while, and this for a very good reason. Or actually 5 good reasons, so let's jump into them, shall we? Now before we start, this is a type of video that I don't often make, so please do let me know if you like it or if you don't like it. Also, anything I say in this video is based off of my own personal experiences with Bannerlord and by talking to other players. I believe you are entitled to your own opinion and you are most welcome to share your point of view on the game in the comment section down below. It's actually been a while since I played Bannerlord, and in particular the multiplayer aspect of the game, and it has, kinda in the words of Resonant, sizzled out a little bit, I believe he said, which is true. I'd actually say it's more than true, it's very noticeable. That having said, I want to go over 5 reasons on why we're going to have to be a bit more patient in regards to a Napoleonic Wars mod for this game. Lots of people are getting anxious about mods in general, and in particular the Sword Musket mod. However, progress is slow, and people are getting impatient on receiving news and receiving updates. So let's go over the reasons why we're going to have to wait a bit more, and hopefully you'll understand these next points. First and foremost, Bannerlord is losing its hype, and I'm talking about the multiplayer aspect in particular. One can always use the argument that single player is doing great, but I see multiplayer as the glue that keeps a community active well after the release of the game. You experience your adventures in single player and you share them with friends and others in multiplayer. Whilst this first reason may not look like it does a lot, or is very broad in its meaning, it actually does matter because of the various elements and factors that fall under what one calls creating hype. These elements and factors I'm talking about each in turn contribute individually and as a collective, and I therefore consider those elements also as some of the reasons I'll further explain in this video. Now, Bannerlord started out really well though. Its early access launch was a thundering success. This due to the massive hype generated behind it, which should be pointed out took place over years. That and the first lockdown, which pushed this game to the top of Steam's best-selling list, and this for weeks. April 2020 was Bannerlord's month, but what happened afterwards? Ever since its release, its player base has been decreasing, up until a month ago, and then it slightly increased. I wager it has something to do with the Christmas sales, but I can't be too sure. But yeah, a player base decreasing after a while is a very normal occurrence for a video game. If we look at Gartner's hype cycle, which allows for a more visual representation, we can clearly see 5 stages. We can actually apply this cycle onto the development and release of a video game, in this case Bannerlord. You have your technology trigger, which kinda corresponds with the main development of the game. Screenshots and videos are circulating, which begin to generate hype. In this case, Bannerlord had a very successful predecessor in the form of Mount and Blade, so we can already say it started out with quite a large amount of hype. This was built up over the course of 8 years, considering Bannerlord was announced in 2012. I don't think I need to mention this, but 8 years, however you want to spin it, is a very long time for a game to be in development, and therefore all the more difficult to maintain that level of hype. The peak of inflated expectations is the time of alpha and beta testing, eventually followed by the game's release. Now we've come to the trough of disillusionment, the third phase, which comes after the release of a video game as the hype starts to die down. This is a very important phase, as hype is not only affected by how well the game fulfills the player's expectations, but also how it's affected by the eventual appearance of bugs and other issues that hamper with our gameplay experience. Bannerlord started off really well, but actually only delivered half of its promises. Before people get triggered, single player was great. I really had a lot of fun playing it. I really enjoyed the new factions, roaming around, gathering an army, sieging a castle, and so on. Needless to say, Bannerlord, like other games in early access, had its issues, and in some areas still too many similarities to the first game, causing players to be, I like to use another word than bored, but I don't think I can, maybe repetitive? Now the first problem, and why I mentioned that Bannerlord only delivered half of its promises, is because it was released as early access and not the full game. Now, I personally didn't have a problem with it being early access, but I don't doubt that there were people that were kinda disappointed. Back to the game, I personally played single player for about a month or two, and I don't think I've touched it ever since because I got bored. I may have checked in now and then, but yeah, never really invested much time in it again. I instead sought solace in multiplayer with my friends and my gaming clan. After only a few weeks, we came upon issue after issue after issue. The first mode we constantly played was skirmish mode, which was the closest we got to some form of competitive multiplayer gameplay. We eventually grew tired of that because there were only 3 maps at the time, and matchmaking was questionable to say the least. Oftentimes we were put with 2 or 3 other random players out of a team of 6 against a full-on clan, which was able to organize itself much more efficiently via use of TeamSpeak or Discord, as opposed to us having to type to our comrades in arms, which diminished our fun having experience quite a bit, because yeah, we got slaughtered almost every time. This process took months, granted I believe though few more maps were added, but this didn't solve the matchmaking issues, and in some cases the tender balance of the factions that you were able to play. The matchmaking issues actually got worse because less and less people were starting to play the game, so we kept ending up against the same players till eventually we had enough and quit playing altogether. All these issues, lack of features, causing the game to become repetitive and so on, all contribute to this first reason of the hype dying out. That having said, I believe most multiplayer players are seeing issues due to the lack of proper communication from the team at TaleWorlds, which I definitely consider as a second reason. The players look at the future, which revolves around private servers, causing communities to host and attend events, as well as the release of the full modding tools. That is my third reason of why we'll have to be patient and why we'll have to wait, because especially if we're looking forward to the Sword Musket mod, the tools that they now have, they're just bare bones. Like, they're simply not enough to fully develop mods like this one. Another reason we're going to have to be a bit more patient, and I already touched upon a little bit, is because there are no private servers. We aren't even able to host these amazing private events which would eventually lead to organized line battles, because that option isn't there yet. Our disappointment grew even more because of all the fixes and reports we read of the TaleWorlds team, the content of which often was just too minor to even care about. Oftentimes just mentioning the speed of a particular unit being increased or decreased, a particular skill added or left out or whatever. Or the drawing speed of the bow, which now takes a lot longer. I believe I ranted about these kind of things in some of my last videos. Oh, a quick plug-in, if you haven't checked it out yet, I organized a podcast past summer which laid bare many of the issues that Bannerlord had and still has. Chatopia, Domi, Kev and Muskie were there to accompany me, so if you're interested in our conversation in regards to the positives and negatives about the game, make sure to check out the podcast, link will be in the description. Last but not least, COVID-19, which plays a huge factor into all of this. In contrast to many other economic sectors that are more drastically affected, the video game industry has been far more resilient to the pandemic, but that doesn't mean that they don't get affected, because they do. Whilst many people around the world were, and still are, forced to stay at home and are unable to work, online gaming numbers skyrocketed. COVID-19, however, has taken a toll on the quality of life, the productivity, the mental and emotional health of game developers, and this especially when it comes to face-to-face meetings with potential partners to gain funding, publishing support, and not to underestimate the amount of stress it put on the relationship of each developer to one another in these hard times. Developers too are human and are as such also affected by this awful virus, both for their private as well as business aspects of their life. As long as this pandemic is raging, it will have a tangible effect on the release schedule of games, and in this case of Bannerlord, the further release of certain tools and features to the public. Now I hope you more or less understand these points, and I want to thank you for watching and listening to this video. Feel free to share your opinion on the current status of the game in the comment section down below. Maybe you agree with some of my reasons, and maybe you disagree. Just comment down below, say why you agree, why you disagree. I also want to stress that I'm a very patient person and I personally don't mind waiting. This video was more of a pointer towards those that are more impatient when it comes to the development process of these things, and I just wanted to throw in some reasons as to why it's going to take a while till we get to play a Bannerlord Napoleonic Wars mod in the form of Sword and Musket. So yeah, that's it from me. Again, thank you for watching this video and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care everyone.